Hi, I'm Chris James, and you're watching A Healthy Alternative. Today, we have an extraordinary, super special, out of this world guest. Marchellea is joining us. She is one of the behind the scenes members of A Healthy Alternative. She helps keep everything moving like a gear in place. She's been with us for probably like 3 or 4 years now. You've probably seen her at different events and things of that nature. And it has been a hard time getting her on camera because she likes to stay behind the scenes. We got a couple people that just want to stay behind the scenes, but we finally got her to agree to this interview. And we're going to be talking about her health journey, what she experienced. Just there's a plethora of things that we got to get into. So I'm really excited to finally do this. All right, so stay tuned. That's coming up next. We're missing a piece of the puzzle. You start getting healthy and you just become a better person. You need to start focusing more on the individual. Once again, everybody, welcome the lovely, incomparable Marchellea.
Hello.
Okay, Shell, so this video has probably been 3-4 years almost in the making.
Long time coming.
I've been asking you to come on the show for so long. And the reason I wanted to bring you on is because your journey is very unique.
Mm-hmm.
So when I very first met you, one of the issues that you had that I just want to kind of get the ball rolling.
Okay.
You were dealing with like severe constipation.
Yes. Very, very, I don't even know. There's got to be another word for severe because maybe I think since I was about 7 up until 30, I've been dealing with constipation issues, something dealing with my digestive system. So it's been a very long time and it's been a very rocky road.
Can you just kind of, because like for me, I never really experienced like constipation like that. I don't really know what it's like. And I know a lot of people out there do experience constipation, but like yours was almost debilitating, right? Can you just kind of like explain?
So I think I can go back to when I was young, when I said about 7. I remember literally rolling like on my mom's bed, just rolling back and forth, just in excruciating pain, and nobody knew what the problem was. I don't think we went to the doctor. I think she just asked a lot of questions, and she was like, okay, Shell, it sounds like you're constipated. Just try to breathe through it. And that's kind of when I put the word constipation with the pain that I've been feeling, because I felt it early on too. But that particular day is when I really remember it just taking over. It was just so much pain of not going to the bathroom regularly, or specifically not pooping regularly. So just that constant buildup of, and it just, you feel like you're in knots. It's heavy, bloated. It's just it's just very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I can imagine it's like walking around every day, just not feeling comfortable. Now that I do understand, maybe not to that, extreme, but I do understand that. So the interesting thing about your situation, at least that I found, was when I met you, you had this issue. It's something you had been dealing with for quite some time, but you were a very slender woman. I mean, you were almost the same size you are now.
Yeah. And that's why when I tell people about just my health journey in general, they're just like, but you're skinny. And I'm like, just because I'm thin doesn't mean that I don't have issues internally. I can't say I've always been just a smaller or slimmer woman, but I mean, I had issues, a lot of issues, and it was very noticeable, especially with the constipation, being with my frame and my belly just poking out because it's just bloated. And I got used to just kind of holding it in,
right,
so that I could, feel it wasn't comfortable, but when I see myself in pictures or whatever, I'm like, I don't want this belly just hanging out. But it was always bloated, just heavy and uncomfortable.
And that's actually a very good point. And this is why I love that we finally got to do this interview, because there's a lot of slender women or people in general walking around with that little pudge, and you'd be like, it's like we call it skinny fat, you know?
Yep.
And I just wanted to bring a spotlight on this because it's this silent issue that people like you and me have, that everybody thinks, oh, we're thin already, we're healthy. And one of the things that almost irritates me to a point is people say, oh, you're skinny, you're good, what do you need to fast for? And it's like, skinny people die at 60, 70 years old as well. Like,
exactly.
skinny people get cancer, and skinny people get diabetes. And that's actually a great segue to my next question. So with dealing with the extreme constipation, and basically, what I have understood about the human body, when you have all that waste backed up, it's going to cause other issues in your system.
Absolutely.
So can you speak about some of the other issues that may have been caused by the constipation?
I think that with the constipation I know I had severe migraines growing up for a while. I would wear glasses. I never had issues with my vision, but my head would hurt all the time. So they're like, okay, you need glasses for your headaches. And that would help sometimes, but I would still have headaches. My skin, I would have random, I don't know if you want to call it eczema. I was never diagnosed with it, but random dry patches here and there. Always like on my neck or my upper thighs for whatever reason. What else? I don't know I think now with my research, I had issues with my cycle being very, very uncomfortable. And once I started down this holistic journey, a lot of those things changed, but I started seeing a difference once I started clearing my bowels regularly. So I think that it was all associated with the severe constipation for all those years.
Right. Because you started to, as you started down this wellness journey, those things started, clearing up. So let's get a little bit into your cycle, because I don't get a lot of women who are willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I would, if you just kind of could go a little bit more in depth about what you experienced, and then as you went down this health journey, how did that change for you?
Okay, so I was 12 when when my cycle came for the first time. That very first one wasn't painful. It was just like, oh, it's here. What is this? But every month after that, excruciating pain. I would say by the time I was in maybe 8th grade, I think it came like I was in 7th grade, but by the time I was in 8th grade up throughout my high school years, I would miss at least one day of school just because the pain was just unbearable. I got used to just taking a lot of ibuprofens, a lot of any medicine that was out there for cramps and things like that, which I think associated with my constipation too, taking all that medicine. But it was just excruciating pain. Not really heavy. The first few days were heavy, but it would just kind of fluctuate. I could never really plan for it. It was consistent, so I knew that it was coming, but I never knew like how much pain I was going to be in, how heavy it was going to be. It was always on time and 7 full days. But it was just throughout that time. I just remember excruciating pain and missing days. And then even after high school, I would miss at least a day a month from work, just because I couldn't function. So fast forward to changing my diet, drinking more water and all of that. It's like some days I'm like, oh, my cycle's here. Like,
Right.
I would never forget that it was there, because
Right.
it would definitely let its presence be known.
It played a huge role. So when you were younger, did your parents or did anybody, your doctor, did they suggest birth control? Did you take anything like that to help with?
No, because when I was younger, I went the first few years without even taking medicine. And I would look back and I'd be like, I don't even know how I got through. Like I couldn't do anything. The most I would have is like a heat pack or something like that. Hot water bottle with warm or hot water in it. Hot towel, but that was about it. It wasn't until I got into college that my doctor suggested birth control for the cycles and just in general. It was, around that time, it was just like birth control, birth control. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. But that made it even worse. It changed a lot of things. It went from being regular to being a month. Either my period was on for a month or I was spotting. There was always something going on to where I had to maintain or deal with that. And I was like, oh, no, I don't, this birth control is not for me. I tried a little bit of everything, but I didn't like that. So it didn't last long at all.
Okay. Yeah, that's, for men, we don't really understand that. I can only imagine, but I've talked to many women about cycles and just that experience. And some women are surprised that women will say, oh, I have a full 7 days. Some women are like, 7 days? So and for me, from the outside in, I thought all women understood it was a 7-day thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was just what it was. And then I'm talking to women, they're like, no, mine lasts like 3 days. Mine lasts like 5 days max. And then of course, there's the heavy flow, there's the light flow, there's I was only, really having spotting. So there's all these variations. So it made me think, okay, something is wrong here. And then there's been women I've met who couldn't work because they're on their cycle. I had a guest, my friend Tiffany, on here, was talking about how it would destroy her relationships because it would make her so mean. And so the reason I really wanted to get into this once again is because I want women to understand, whether you're big or small, that there's so much more benefit to adopting this more wellness lifestyle and caring about what you eat and really focusing on your health. The pain and suffering that women especially go through, it's not something that has to be.
Right. That is something when I realized that. So thinking back, like I'm 32 now, so I guess 29, around 29 or 30 is when I started realizing that life is different. It doesn't have to be excruciating pain. I don't have to prepare to be off work or just, I would schedule trips around my cycle. I still, if I'm going to the beach or something, I still want to schedule it around it. But I would make sure that around that time I could be at home and I could be comfortable because it was that was my life. It was around making sure that I can be as comfortable as I possibly can until the time was over.
Right.
Just Xing out the days. All right, day 1, day 2. By the time I get to day 3, I can breathe a little bit. But those first 3 days were the worst. And I remember, because I have 2 sisters, and I don't think growing up, I didn't realize, or I don't think that they had the same experiences that I had. And I know with cousins and everything, they would have 3-4 day cycles. I remember being in high school and in gym class, and we had to, I think, dress out. You had to put your gym clothes on. And I told my coach, he was the coach, I told him, I said, well, I don't really want to do this because my cycle's on. And he's just like, okay. So here we are a few days later, and he's like, all right, Bush, you can dress down now. And I'm like, still. He's like, no, because usually just last 3 days now. Come on. He's just telling me, I was trying to get over.
Right.
And I'm like, no, for me, 7 days, full 7 days. So just seeing, there's a difference. Like women, we experience it different, but just to go back, it didn't have to be like that.
Right.
It's not like that anymore. It hadn't been like that since I started changing what I do on a normal day to day.
That's interesting. So you said you were in high school when this. So your coach was probably maybe 30 or 40 years old at the time.
Nah, he was older.
He was older, 50, 60.
Yeah, probably about 50.
Okay, which means that in his experience, being probably a younger guy and dealing with different women and stuff, he had created this mindset, which would, to me, say that our ancestors, our elders, may have experienced it much differently. This what you're experiencing and what so many women today experience is something that is newer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so just for those who are kind of listening and looking to understand this a little better, as we know that the woman's cycle is a cleansing, it's a detoxing, which is phenomenal. It prepares the womb, and women have to give birth and all of that stuff. So it's got to stay clean and um, detoxed. So as you started to eliminate the backup,
Mm-hmm.
all of the extra matter and stuff that you had in your bowels, then the detox that you had, your monthly detox, wasn't as heavy because it just didn't have as much work to do.
Right.
And that's essentially what we're talking about.
Pretty much. And that's how that's why I feel like it's related. And I say I feel like, because I didn't, go to the doctor or anything for them to tell me that. But I just know my body and things start to shift. But it all started with changing the foods that I ate, which allowed me to have more bowel movements without me having to use an enema or some kind of laxative or, I mean, you name it. I tried it because I was just like, there's no way I should go a week. I've eaten every single day, multiple times a day, but I can go a week or two without pooping.
2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I would go, by the time I get into the second week, I'm like, okay, let me get an enema or the laxatives. They come in so many different flavors. You got suppositories. It's so much.
Wow.
I've tried them all.
That reminds me, Siobhan, Queen Vani, for those who, watch the show, she had a similar issue. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking to her. She was like, yeah, I think she was hinting at the fact that she kind of goes regular or something. She's like, yeah, I go like once a week. And I was like, oh, and for her, I don't think she at the time realized how messed up that was.
Yeah.
So from that point, as I was researching and talking to other people, I learned that is not uncommon.
No.
That people go 3 days, 5 days, a week, up to 2 weeks, which is I have heard that before as well, without having a bowel movement. So we're bringing all this to the forefront of the conversation because we're not going to be talking about massive fat loss,
mm-hmm.
but we are going to be talking about better elimination. That constipation is ruining so many people's world.
Yeah.
The bloating and all of that, and then of course for women specifically, the cycles, the heavy cycles. And I've done my best to talk about this, but women don't want to hear this from me. So I really appreciate you being willing to share all this, because we need this.
Yeah, it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had, because the more I talk about my health journey, the more people open up and talk about theirs with me. And I realize that we've experienced a lot of the same things. Some people worse. Like I thought I was going through some things. Some people even worse than me.
Yeah.
And others, of course, we talked about like my size and everything. So people be like,
Right.
But I mean, I think it's conversations that need to be had, because just like with Siobhan,
mm-hmm.
thinking that it's her normal
right.
is going once a week. And for her, that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
But naturally, I feel like whenever we eat, it needs to
come out. I just came off a coconut fast. I've been telling y'all I was going to do this coconut fast. I did it. It was amazing. I'll talk about maybe full details in a different video. But one of the things I instantly noticed is I break my fast, I have my first meal, and then literally within like an hour and 40 minutes, that food's coming out. Now, that's not new for me. I've experienced that before. And that's when I started to understand how efficient our digestive system can be and how efficient it should be. And it's really comparable to a baby. Like, babies with healthy digestive systems, they eat and they're pooping within 30 minutes or an hour. So that is what our digestive system is designed to do. And that is what we should be aspiring to some degree.
Right.
If you can have one bowel movement per meal, that'd be amazing. If you can have one bowel movement for the day, maybe you have 2 meals that day, but it's a big bowel move. You could tell it all comes out. That's also, pretty decent. But if you're not eliminating what you're eating, pretty much all of what you eat should come out. So your bowel movement should look much bigger than what you're probably used to. And so I just wanted to kind of get that out there. I think that's a huge topic. And of course, we can talk more about it now that we've kind of opened that door. But I wanted to ask you, outside of the cycle and the headaches, which, that's obviously its own thing. There was something else particular that you told me about that you had got diagnosed with. And that was around the time when we actually first met. So, could you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, so right before maybe a month or two, I don't remember the time, but I was diagnosed with pre-diabetes. And I remember growing up seeing my granddad, he had diabetes, and I remember him having to inject the insulin. So when the doctor said, "Ooh, your sugar levels," and she told me, I'm pre-diabetic, I immediately thought, insulin shots.
Right.
Like, I don't want to live my life like that. And I know, I have a family member and friends and family that have had limbs amputated, so when I heard that, I was like, I have to make a change. I already knew I had issues with my digestive system, but I didn't think that it would lead me down a path of being pre-diabetic. And the more I think about it, I think about the cravings for sugar. And I did more research, and it's just like, if you're not eliminating more, you crave those sugars more. And I had a sweet tooth. Still do, but it was just like I couldn't get enough. I couldn't get enough of it. I wanted everything sweet. I just, almost every day, like if it was nothing but sweet tea or something like that, I just wanted the sugar. And I feel like, and now that my body is processing regularly, I don't even have that desire like I used to. Every now and then I'm like, I want something sweet.
Right.
Not nowhere near like it used to be. So it was just like that. What was happening in my gut was driving the urge to eat more sugars, which, led to the pre-diabetes.
Interesting. Now, at the time when you were diagnosed with the pre-diabetes, do you about what weight were you at that time?
Probably about 125-ish, 120-ish. I can't remember. It was about 120.
You were a small woman, is the point. So once again, although this is not something that you regularly hear, someone who is slender can get diabetes. Like, it has nothing to do with necessarily being overweight. Right. I think that you're more at risk potentially because of it, but that's because it's really based on, dietary and how well your digestive system, how well you're eliminating, and all of these factors. And I tell people all the time, people who are thin or slender and they don't eat well, they are at a higher risk for a lot of diseases and things because they're not showing outwardly. And so because of the way society is, when you're not outwardly showing that you're unhealthy like that, or if we don't make that correlation between, what our body is showing us and unhealth, then we just keep doing what we're doing.
Exactly. Yep. But the signs are there. Like, you feel it. You just don't. I think it's like you said, with society, we don't look at it that way. Like, I'm not overweight. I still fit my clothes,
Right.
Other than the bloating, because I would have to pop that button, because I would be bloated. Just kind of cover it up. But that alone shows that there's something that's off. And then too, like my skin, as I got older, I never had issues, or when I was younger, around that age where they say you're going through puberty or whatever, and you have your
raging hormones.
Yeah. That didn't happen to me until I got maybe about 27, 26 is when my skin started that's when I started having outbreaks. And I think it's just
Adult acne is what they call
Yeah,
it.
they call it adult acne. I think it's just all the years in my body. You know, I was young, so I was able to push some things out a little bit more through other ways since I wasn't eliminating.
Mm,
But I think it just caught up with me eventually. It's just like, okay, we've done everything that we can do. It's gonna start showing up on your skin now.
right.
So yeah.
And
I just
that's oh, go ahead.
no, I was just that's it.
That's exactly what I experienced. I would when earlier, you know, when I was 16, 17, I didn't really have pimples and stuff. Now when my beard started coming in, I did get like ingrown hairs and stuff like that, which that's a whole nother story. But when I became an adult, that's when I started experiencing like acne. And I'm like, what is this adult acne stuff? You know? And I too, when I changed my dietary habits, I started fasting, drinking more water. That's when it went away.
Right. Yeah.
And I also started seeing the correlation between what I was eating and when my body would give me little pimples
Oh
or
yeah.
yeah. So it's very interesting. I want to dive a little deeper into the pre-diabetic situation because you mentioned that your grandfather had it and he was on insulin. I'm curious, did the doctors ever tell you, oh, that you know it's a hereditary thing, and you know that maybe you were predisposed? Like, what did those conversations go like? Did they tell you why you had it, how you could fix it, anything?
Actually, no. She didn't say anything about it being hereditary. She did. She mentioned diet. She did. And she just said that we'll monitor it. I don't know. She gave a time frame because she said basically the way the numbers were is I wasn't too far off from being like
Okay.
from them saying you're diabetic.
Oh, okay.
So and then actually, so I had my follow up. I had a follow up, and I want to say nothing really changed much the last time I went, and then I didn't go. I didn't get anything looked at again until a little bit later. But at that point, I had started making so many changes. I felt a difference, so I didn't. I wasn't worried about going back to the doctor for her to tell me what I need to do or anything like that because I was concerned about maybe them wanting to put me on medication or something like that, and I wasn't gonna do
Gotcha.
that.
Okay, so we talked about the constipation. We talked about the cycles. We talked about the pre-diabetic condition, the headaches. Was there anything else major that you were kind of dealing with before you started making these lifestyle changes?
Yes. One thing that would show up at least twice a year, like clockwork, were my allergies. So it was all throughout the year, always. I would take one of those one a day, whatever, to keep it at bay. But if I miss one day, my eyes are itching, my nose is running, itchy, my ears are scratchy, throat, everything. But at least twice a year, I would have like a severe sinus infection. And it would be to the point where I just want to claw at my face
Wow.
because it was so much. So throughout this process of changing what I eat, I noticed, well, two things. I noticed when I would eat dairy, I would have little breakouts, like especially along my cheeks and just little bitty bumps, just all there. So I was like, okay, let me change my diet, or not change my diet, but let me cut out the dairy for a while. When I did that, the bumps went away, but I also noticed that the allergy issues went away. So I said, okay, it might be something to it. So let me test it a little bit. So if I would eat something with dairy in it, or specifically cheese, on the cheese pizzas that I miss them, but I don't miss what happened when I would eat them. I realized that the allergy issue was gone, and now I don't deal with it at all. Like I don't remember the last time before I stopped like taking medicine, I bought any type of allergy medication. The only time that I would say my allergies bother me is if I'm just like out around something that and it's like a smell that's just too strong, then I would kind of get those same symptoms of like itchy throat, runny eyes, but it wouldn't last long. I'd use a little lemon oil or something and it'll clear right up. So that's how I know things have changed. But the allergies was just like clockwork with the cycles. It was just like, I know I'm about to go through this. This is gonna happen. I would sit up in my bed just like this and sleep because I couldn't lay back because all the pressure, the sinus pressure and all of that. But yeah, that was intense. So that changed with when I changed my diet too.
Okay. And that's actually something that I've had several conversations with also women who have had heavy cycles. I've had these conversations with them and either made suggestions or they've told me how when they took the dairy out, they also saw an improvement in that area as well. So it might be compounding interest there. So you mentioned that, you know, eliminating the dairy or, cheese, specifically the cheese pizzas. There's something about a pizza. I did some very light research. This isn't anything deep, but I think a pizza is more than just a tasty food. I think there is something very addictive about how a pizza is made. I'm just putting it out there. Someone else may know more than me. Were there other I mean, everybody loves pizza.
Yeah.
Like it is extremely rare to come across someone who doesn't like pizza.
I don't think I've ever met anyone.
I
They're
met
probably
one
out
person.
there, but I've never met
I
anyone
met
that didn't like
one. And I talked, especially back before I changed my diet, I talked about pizza a lot. Anytime, hey, where do you want to eat? Pizza. I loved finding pizza spots. When we were in New York, we worked for this company called 2020 Power Vision, and our team would go to eat lunch or whatever at Mario's or Mario's. That's how they say it out there. Every day, okay? They knew us. We were the Verizon guys. That's pizza. Okay. Were there any other foods or anything like that would either cause you breakouts or constipation or?
I guess we hadn't talked about it. Meat in general, specifically like beef. The beef, if I would eat a hamburger or anything with beef, that would just sit 4 days. Now, when I say if I didn't poop for like 2 weeks, more than likely it's because I had beef and it was a lot of it.
Oh, wow.
Like throughout the weeks or whatever days. But so I started transitioning from eating the meat. Okay, so first I would, I think most people that are on that journey, they're like, okay, I'm going to stop eating pork. I'm going to stop eating beef. And I saw a difference, but it was still, I was still having some issues. And then I cut out the chicken. And then lastly, I cut out the seafood because it's still meat. The fish.
Everybody be trying to hold on to that seafood.
I don't eat anything.
It's
just fish.
It's not meat. I don't eat no meat, just seafood.
Yeah. Cut all of that out. And that's when I started seeing, that's when I was just like, oh, gotta go to the bathroom. And I'm like excited. I would text people, text my mom. They're like, okay, Cheryl. I'm like, hey, guess what I'm doing? Like, because I wanted people to know I'm feeling good. I feel better. Like, this is exciting. And it's unfortunate that that's what would make me, excited. But living years, like over a decade of chronic constipation and just being heavy and uncomfortable and bloated and random breakout, I'm excited. It's the little thing.
It is. I mean, when you have a natural function of your body that does not work well or at all, that is a major problem. Like, we're always thinking about the big things, our finances and, our relationships and, our class. But it's like, but if you can't pee, if you can't have a bowel movement, or if you're always bloated or constipated, that's huge. Now, I'm wondering about beans because, I'm not really a big advocate of beans. When I was listening to Dr. Sebi coming up, he was talking about how we were taught that beans and corn and rice were so good for us, and carrots and, all these different things. And I started eliminating beans from my diet. And what I started to notice was that if something gave me gas, it was not good for me. So did you have any issues with beans at all?
Oh, absolutely. Now, I think in the past, because I ate beans all the time, but I was also eating everything else, I didn't associate beans with
Mm.
gas or anything. I'm just like, this is just life. Constipation and gas, that's me.
Oh,
That's just what
interesting.
it was. But once I started eliminating the meat, the dairy, I'm eating much more. I mean, I always enjoy vegetables and fruit. Like, I just like to see a plate full of colors. It just
Mm.
included meat and cheese too,
Okay.
and a lot of bread and a lot of pasta. Um, but once I started getting rid of those things or finding alternatives, a healthy alternative to those things, the beans were still there. And every time I would eat beans, I would get bloated again and I would be full of gas.
Mm.
It would be a lot of gas. I don't eat beans now. I try my best to avoid that. Like at home, I don't buy them, I don't cook with them.
Right.
The hard thing is eating out being, I try not to put a label on it. The closest thing would be vegetarian. I don't eat, uh, when we go out or anything like that. The hard thing is finding foods that are alternatives that don't have beans in them.
Interesting.
Because sometimes I'll slip up and eat whatever veggie burger they have or whatever alternative. And then I realize when I get home, I'm like, something feels a little off, but familiar. And I'm like, there were probably beans in
That
there.
that veggie patty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being mindful, but that also, I mean, that's exciting though, because my body lets me know, like you've been doing this, you did something different. We didn't like it that much. We're gonna let you know, get back on track.
Exactly. And that is the beauty of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things I talk about is building a relationship with your body. So when you were, 27 or 26 years old, you didn't have that connection. You didn't have that relationship with your body. So it would say things to you, but you just thought it was business as usual.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you started down this health path, you can start identifying some of these things, foods you're eating or products you're using that are causing you harm,
Mm-hmm.
which allows you to further you along on your wellness journey.
Right.
So that's one of the biggest benefits that I have actually found for me personally. It also helps keep me on track. And
Absolutely.
and so for those people who, they're frustrated with their dietary strategy, you got to understand that this is a work in progress. A lot of people think beans are fine. And maybe beans are fine for some people.
Yeah.
But understanding those signals, hey, if they make you bloated or give you gas or, make you feel uncomfortable in any way, they're not good for you.
Mm-mm.
Whether they're good for anyone else, you can't really speak on that. But this is really building that relationship with yourself.
Right. And one thing that I think is interesting, because I used to think this too, and people are like, oh, gas is normal. That's it, gas is normal. It's not normal. I can go, I mean, as long as I'm eating what I know I should be eating,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not passing gas.
Yeah.
If it's normal, I mean, I guess you can say it is normal in our society. It's not natural.
Right. It's a common, and it's natural. It's a natural reaction to toxicity of the
Mm-hmm.
body, but it's not something that we should just have.
Right.
Right. And that's a good point. That's something that I experienced as well. Cause Queen Bonnie, she used to be like, what? It's a fart. It's natural. That was her thing for years. And I never really had any comeback. And then I started learning about health and wellness. I started fasting. And when I would fast, now early on when I would fast, I'd have some gas, and you're going to have some gas because you're moving some stuff out. But as I started doing it more regularly, and then especially changing my dietary strategy, I stopped having gas. And my morning breath went away. Like I stopped having my morning breath was extreme. Like it was like, hey, what's up, girl? Let me go to the bathroom real quick every morning. You know what I'm saying? And it's like now I could wake up and I can forget to maintenance my teeth because my breath don't be stinking like that.
I've experienced that too. Like sometimes I wake up and I'm moving around and I'm like, shit, did you clean your teeth today or your mouth? And I'm like, but it's fine. It tastes fine. So I guess we have that in common.
Definitely. So these are some amazing things that I think people deal with. They're little things, they're big things, little things that become big things, and we don't talk about them enough. All right, so we talked about all of the issues, which you had quite a few of, and I know people would not expect based on how you looked and probably the way you carried yourself. Now, with that being said, let's talk about some of the solutions in depth. Like, what was it that you did to make, to get these changes and these benefits, and really, what triggered it? Like, what was the moment when you were just like, you know what, I gotta change. You know what I'm saying? And also, not to ask too many questions at once, but what made you go the healthy route?
Okay, so that always goes back to my childhood. So my sisters would always say, if anything was going on, they're like, let's ask Shell. She's the doctor of the family. I thought I was going to be a doctor one day. And I always, back then, I thought I was making healthy choices. And I guess they were for my circumstance.
Right.
But I've always preferred a more holistic approach. Like if I could, if we could fix everything with water, which we can fix a lot, that was really what my focus would be. Let me just drink more water. So just when I was younger, I always just had like deep inside of me, it was just like all these medications and the surgeries that people are having. I don't think we need to do all of that. So I've always wanted to do things naturally. But I think it wasn't until I became an adult and I really I made the choice. I'm like, okay, I'm not buying that stuff. I'm not, running to the doctor every time I have a small ache or pain. I'm just going to do some research and see if I can change some things on my own. But it really wasn't until I got diagnosed with the prediabetes that I was just like, okay, right, you got to do something different, because if you don't, you're going to be poking yourself every day. And that was my motivation. And I knew, and I guess around that time I started seeing more and more people, those commercials, like if you are a loved one to whatever, and I'm like, this medicine that people are taking, that's, it's either killing them or they're in a position where they can't do much for themselves. So that's what took me down the journey of wanting to just find a more natural, holistic approach, and and look at things in from a plant-based view.
So it's more intuitive.
Really. I think it was always there. Yeah. It was just, because I can make my own choices and my own decisions with my health and without the influence of, your parents, and they do the best, they do the best they can, but naturally that's what I wanted to do. That's what was calling me. Right. So I just explored it.
And that's kind of what it was for me too. My grandma, which I spoke about before, she was like that natural guru, home remedies, use the body. So she planted that in me. But even before that, really, if I think about it, I always felt like medicine was unnatural. I always felt like, I didn't like going to the doctor. I feel like we all kind of have that innate undertone where it's like, we don't want medicine. It just doesn't feel natural.
Intuition.
Right. And we're kind of taught or educated out of that.
Right.
So what were some of the specific changes that you made? I know you mentioned that you started off with, eliminating meat, but there's many people who go vegan or plant-based or whatever, and they eliminate meat and they continue to have those issues. So I'm assuming you did something a little different than that.
Okay. So actually I didn't start off eliminating meat. I started eliminating like the pastas, and the breads, because I was eating, I wasn't shocked that I was pre-diabetic, because I literally was eating at least 2 or 3 pasta dishes, heavy pasta dishes from one of my favorite Italian restaurants, about 3 times a week.
Oh, wow.
Just because I work, working in corporate America, I would order from there on the lunch menu. I wasn't cooking as much at home, and I already had a taste for it. So I'm like, let me just order it again. And this is the dinner portion.
So the dinner portion.
So I was like, okay, so let me start cutting back on that. And then start cooking more at home because I gotten out of the habit of cooking because it was just easier to just grab something on the way.
Right.
So cooking more at home, and then I started. Um, I stopped buying meat to make and prepare at home, but if I go out, I would still eat the meat.
Okay.
I started incorporating more fruits to my dishes, cooking with more bell peppers and things like that, just juicy fruits, drinking much more water, and just being more conscious of how much water I was drinking. Because I would be that girl that have the jokes of like women have all these different water bottles and we drink just a little bit and then you have them all over. That was me. Like I would have about 6 different water bottles and I'll take a few sips and I'll open another one. I don't know why I did that.
I don't get that either.
I don't know why, but I would be very conscious of like making sure I'm drinking plenty of water so that I can make sure I stay hydrated. So it was just gradual steps, and then eventually the meat was completely gone. Played around with the alkaline foods for a while, and that's what helped me get on the path of just constantly going to the restroom. When I was specific, like with that alkaline food,
Right.
it was in and out, in and out. But I kind of have it. I switch it up a little bit now, but
Right.
yeah. I guess
Yeah.
that's that question.
That Dr. Sebi alkaline diet is the truth. I think that especially when you're dealing with a lot of stuff, if you default to that Dr. Sebi alkaline diet, it is a great baseline. It's a very good safe space when you just don't know. And there's amazing channels that teach how to cook that way. Ty's Conscious Kitchen. I don't know if he still does new recipes and stuff, but
The old ones are good.
the old ones are good.
Look at them.
That's how I started. Blended abode, and I think one's called Mushroom Den or something like that. There are. So that's a great place to start when you don't know what to do. And of course, there's no meat, dairy products, animal products. Whole foods is going to be the majority of what you're cooking with.
Right.
So it's a good baseline, and then you can kind of, if you want, start adding some other stuff in and see how your body responds.
Exactly. Yep. And I think that was the point of reset, because that's when I really noticed the difference in what had been, just the elephant in the room for me because of the bloating and constipation. And once I started eating that alkaline, I was like, okay, this is a transition, and it's been great since. And I wanted to touch on something you mentioned earlier on, what we talked about when I was saying I got excited about pooping. And you say, most people get excited about finances and things like that. What I can say is, since I changed my diet and the way that I look at my body and my health, my creativity has come out more. I was a daydreamer, but now I'm a dreamer. Like I have bigger goals, or I feel like I can accomplish more things than I thought that I could before. And these are things like when I journal, when I remember to, I kind of see, these things started happening around the time I started seeing results from transitioning.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that speaks to not just the physical changes that happen when you adopt this lifestyle, but the mental empowerment that comes along with it, which will have a long-lasting impacting effect on your finances, your relationships, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
Because I actually experienced that as well. I feel like my relationships across the board are so much richer. And I'm also able to, keep my circle tight knit. I don't make mistakes with people, judgment calls as frequently. And oh my God, my financial success or my goal setting is through the roof. I was just doing a call with the Academy members last night, and I was talking about how there was a period of time when I was running around telling everybody that I was a millionaire. I was rich. And I was like, I don't do that to be cocky or arrogant or to lie to people. I'm doing it because in order to become a millionaire, you have to believe you can become a millionaire. Right. You have to speak that type of stuff. And all of this is a result of this wellness journey.
Exactly. It all ties in. And it's amazing because you hear people talk about it. I remember hearing, seeing people meditating all the time, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it looks a little funny, but okay.
Right.
But I'm the one now that's just like, let me get my time in, because I know that it just being connected and grounded, and then like this physical body, we're responsible for it. Putting good things in, and then you get great things that come out of it, but just that alignment.
Mm.
So I definitely wanted to speak to that, just in case there's some people out there that if you're a daydreamer. What I mean by daydreamer is just like, I had all these ideas of things I would like to do this, I want to do this, it would be cool to do this, but no, I need to stay in my safe zone. I need to make sure I'm, getting this constant money that's coming in. But when I start transitioning, it took me a while. I'm a Taurus, I'm a bull. So it took me a while, but I can go back and think about these things started coming, and I got more comfortable with the idea of pursuing my dreams.
Okay.
After I start transitioning.
Very, very good point. I'm really glad you brought that up. I'm always looking for ways to expand on the benefits of the wellness journey as a whole. It's the reason why I love talking about it from a holistic standpoint. Now, with all of that being said, I am curious because as we were kind of working and interacting together to get you to an optimal state. I did suggest fasting to you. And still to this day, I suggest fasting to you because I certainly feel like there is a level that you need to get to. You're still, I mean, it's a journey, right? So there's always progress to be made. What was, if you want to tell us, what was your first fasting experience like? Kicking and screaming. I'll tell you that. That was the first part of it.
Yeah, it was rough. Actually, I guess really the very first time, like a long time ago, I did a 3-day fast, and it wasn't bad. I don't know if you remember that, but it wasn't that rough, and I don't know what happened, but technically this one that you're talking about, short. It was like literally within the first day of fasting, my entire life changed. My skin was like, this is like, you need to put in dun dun dun, but my body broke out in blisters. I mean, it was just all over my legs, coming up my body, up on my arms, my skin. Literally, it was like a layer of extra thick. Like you could hear it, just like sandpaper of skin. And then it just started, as it came over me, it just started flaking and peeling off. And I mean, it was rough. That's when I started learning about the lymphatic system, and that's how I started realizing that throughout the start of that fast was all of those toxins and things coming out from years and years and years of constipation, and it just came out through my skin. Man, that was rough. And honestly, I think that's probably why I'm scared to do it now again. I need to, but it makes me nervous.
Right. And part of the reason why I want to bring that up is because this video is going to resonate with a certain type of person, someone who has a similar issue as you. Maybe they haven't done the fasting. Now, most of the story that you've talked about so far has been about dietary changes and consumption changes and flushing, enemas and stuff. But because, this is I wouldn't say it's not a fasting channel, but we talk about fasting a lot. So if someone in your position decides to start doing fasting, then this could potentially take place where, because you've been dealing with severe constipation for so long and, stagnant lymph system and just poor elimination across the board, when you start fasting, because of the nature of fasting and how powerful it is, it starts to push out toxicity any way that it can. And you essentially had what some people call a healing crisis. It's probably not a good word for it. It's probably something, much better than crisis. But you just have a strong detox all at one time. And I remember that you were very scared about what was going on with your skin. And I remember how your skin looked and, you know, how just uncomfortable you were. And you were a soldier for, you know, trusting me through that process.
It was rough.
Because uh, uh, I've had members on the group post about different rashes and things they got from fasting. Yours was the worst that I had ever seen.
Man, I don't want to. I would have been all right not being that person, but it was what it was. And I will say this: once all that extra layer of stuff came off, I don't think I've ever seen my skin look as beautiful as it did when it finally cleared up. But it was a
Yeah.
journey. It was a journey getting there. It was a journey.
We're going to see if we can get some before and afters. Your skin, I remember that your skin after, I thought you were wearing makeup. That's how flawless your skin looked. Like I literally, listen, y'all, I don't exaggerate. That's not my thing. I'm not an exaggerator. I literally thought, I'm like, because I know she don't wear makeup. So I'm like, are you wearing makeup? that's
Yeah.
how good it looked.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of this metamorphosis, which reminds me, Chris James is a published author. I just released my first book, Metamorphosis: A Journey to Holistic Wellness. Grab your copy today.
Very great book.
But no, seriously, it's literally like that. And that's actually part of the reason why I named the book Metamorphosis, because we go through these wellness journeys and we have these transformations. And it really is like how a butterfly, you know, how a caterpillar becomes a butterfly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That definitely, like, literally, the way my skin was like coming out of that shell.
Yep.
That I mean, that's the best analogy that I can give, because that was, ooh, talk about confidence issues.
Yeah.
Man, I was just like, everybody's staring at my skin. Nobody's probably thinking about it, but it was just like, it was so, I felt like a snake. It was just so much, especially in this area, the thickness of it. It was so thick. Oh my goodness.
One thing, and so this is for, and understand, y'all, I'm not perfect. I don't know it all. So her experience helped me to understand that when I'm dealing with someone that has that extreme constipation, and that's why I like getting people's background information, then we approach it differently, right? So after that, I didn't continue to say, okay, you need to keep fasting. I'm like, all right, well, let's look at doing some liver flushes. You know, let's look at doing some enemas. Let's look at being very consistent with the dietary strategy. And then also, you know, as we move back into fasting, let's focus more on juice fasting versus, you know, maybe water fasting or something more intense, so that we can create that gradual detoxification so that you don't experience that again. Because while at the end of the day, it was an amazing experience and you got to see that butterfly version of yourself, that was a really rough transition. And I think that if we can avoid that, that will probably be optimal.
Yeah, I can agree. I think one thing for sure would be to clear the bowels, like go through a process of, you know, maybe colonics or something to just make sure you can try to get that, as much of that old buildup out, and start cleaning the lining of your intestines. Because if I knew then what I know now, I definitely would have done that before I even considered. Because I think that one thing I just wanted to say is, changing your diet is very important, but you got to get that old stuff out. You know, it's just like, I don't know if you say this or if I say, I don't know, but like changing your oil, but not flushing out the old oil. Like, you just putting
New
nice
oil
new
in.
oil on top of the old gunky stuff.
That's rough.
And that's what was happening. That old stuff was coming out because I did transition. I did start seeing benefits, but it was so much build up that process had to occur. So I would say, if you are experiencing what I experienced, before you do a long-term fast or whatever, go through the process of preparing yourself. Clear those bowels, start changing your diet, do that. Drink plenty of water, obviously, and juice and things like that to help break that down so that you don't have to deal with what I dealt with, because that was rough. I don't have any regrets. I remember, but I don't have any regrets of going through the experience though.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. I'm glad you don't hold nothing against me because I was just trying to help. But it was a learning experience for us all.
Yeah.
And I appreciate all of my friends and family who allow me to play with their bodies. No, I'm just joking. But experiment with me, because this is, I think, what allows the channel to grow and have, it's such a genuine feel, because like we've experienced everything that we
Right.
talk about. Now, outside of dietary changes and some detox methods, did you also change your health and beauty products, what you put on your skin, or did you add any different products in your life to kind of help with this transition?
Absolutely. One thing I did, I stopped getting my fingernails polished and pedicure. Well, I still get the pedicure, but I just don't do the polish.
Okay.
I wasn't really big on makeup anyway, unless I was doing like a fashion show or shoot or something like that. But what I did do was I started eliminating the lotions that I used to buy. Wasn't really big on perfume. I'm a minimalist, very simple. So I didn't do a lot of health and beauty products, but the ones that I did do, I literally I cleaned out under my cabinet. I got rid of everything. And then I started making my own products. So I don't know if this is a segue, but it's going to be. I wanted to make sure I used something that my skin enjoyed. And I tell people all the time, if you won't eat it, don't put it on you. So I started making my own body butters, and then the scrubs, and so on and so forth. And then Boss Lady Holistic Health and Beauty was born.
So one of the things I wanted to bring up was, you mentioned earlier that as you went through this wellness journey, you started to dream bigger or create bigger goals for yourself. And one of the goals you had was to quit your job and start your own business.
That's right.
So as you went through this transition, you actually did this.
I did it. I did. I'm so excited. I get excited just thinking about it, because I felt like I was just in prison for all those years. I went to school. I got my bachelor's degree in public relations. And then after that, I got my master's degree in business management and entrepreneurship, which is what sparked. Well, it didn't spark. I always knew that I wanted to be a businesswoman. I didn't know exactly where I would be, but it was like, I'm going to be somebody's boss, my boss. So, but yeah, so when I recently, June of 2020, in the midst of a pandemic.
Right, I'm about to say that, during the Corona.
During the Rona, I decided, I had already made a decision. I was preparing myself mentally and trying to put as much of a cushion financially to the side as I could, but I'd already made my decision. I said, I've been saying last year, 2019, June, for whatever reason, June 2020 was just the month and year that kept coming to me like, that's going to be it. That's it. June 2020. You figure it out. You got however much time it was. It was probably around June or a little bit before of last year when I was just like, this is it. June 2020. I'm going to start something new. And so throughout that time, I was introduced to the essential oils and started playing around with making the shea butters or body butters. Friends and family started liking it. I'm like, okay, I enjoy it. It's therapeutic making it, just putting my energy into it. And then here we come, fast forward to June. I was like, okay, this is it. On this date, June 26th, this is the day. That'll be the last day that I work for anyone else. And that was just like a weight just off my shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's just a certain form of freedom. And I enjoy the hustle, and I enjoy having to really think about what my next moves are so that I can make sure that I maintain and you know, build up a successful business. But I know that the products that I make, they're intentional for me, for my family, and for anyone out there that uses them. And I've gotten just amazing reviews on them just because I know the energy that I put into it and the determination that I have to build it.
Listen, Shell is the admin on our essential oils group. So if you guys, I've talked about the essential oils group many times. So if you've ever gone in there, you've seen her. This is the lady. This is the person behind the all of the information and really, you know, creating that group. And she uses the oils that a healthy alternative uses, which is the doTERRA brand oils, which are the highest quality oils that I have seen. Not to say they're the only company that has that quality, but it's the highest quality that I've seen. So it's a very high quality product. And I'm not a lotion person. All right. I'm not a lotion person. I don't like how gunky it makes me feel, sticky, oily, you name it. You guys know, you've experienced these different lotions and things. So I was like, nah, I'm good. I love her body butters. Like I use them all the time. I haven't regularly used lotion mainly because of this wellness journey and understanding that if you're not willing to put it in your mouth, you shouldn't put it on your skin. And so I was like, well, no lotion, no toothpaste, et cetera, et cetera. And so I feel so happy to have something that I can use when I get a little ashy here and there. You know, I don't always put lotion on, but when I do, it's the one of the Boss Lady butters. So and also like you really can like eat it. You know what I'm saying? Like you can cook with it. It's the you know, she's got what the lavender, the peppermint.
So the lemon, lavender, and peppermint body butter, and the sugar scrub you can really cook with, literally.
Literally.
It's sugar, oil, and essential oils.
What kind of oil do you use in the?
I use organic coconut oil. So everything that I use is unrefined virgin oil. Just like how I make that product because this is what I want for myself and for my family. And when it comes to my skin, we just talked about what I experienced.
Right.
So I'm very conscious of what I put on my skin. And it's not super expensive. It's not extremely hard to find. Well, it is kind of hard to find healthy skincare products.
Yes.
But it doesn't have to be that way. So, like I said, when I cleaned out under my cabinet, it was just like all these different scents and all of these different lotions, which I think probably played a role in my outbreak too.
Right.
But yeah, so with my products, I just make sure I use a minimal products and quality products.
Beautiful. And then, you know, I genuinely love it. And then one of the reasons why I definitely wanted you to come on is so that we could talk about your products, because as I've done in the past, if there's a product or a service or something that I use or genuinely believe in, that's the only time you're going to hear me talk about it. I don't talk about things I don't use, and I don't talk about things I don't believe in. I've had many, you know, vitamin companies, detox teas, and other things approach me. Hey man, can you just promote? We'll pay you. I'm like, no. If the product isn't good or if I don't believe in it, then I'm not promoting it. So being able to tell the group about a product that is healthy, that works, has health benefits, but also won't have any side effects. That's huge. And I've actually done a video talking about health and beauty products and how they could be very detrimental to the system. You know, aluminum in your deodorants and SPS and all these chemicals and stuff.
All those extra hormones that affect. I mean, this might be a conversation for another day, but just the woman's body in general. All of these products, and we happen to use so many from hair down to everything else, and it affects our reproductive system.
Right. Yeah, definitely. We definitely need to bring you back on and have another conversation about that, as well as some other topics, because we didn't get to cover everything today. but I just wanted to make sure, y'all, listen, Marchellea supports me and AHA like no other. She's one of my best friends. I want you all to make sure to support Boss Lady Holistic Health and Beauty, okay? All of the products are amazing. And where can people find you, like if they want to get in touch, ask questions, whatever?
So I'm building up my, like you said before, no, not like being on the camera, but my social media is Boss Lady Holistic. That's on Instagram. I have Boss Lady Holistic Health and Beauty, it's a group on Facebook. And then I have my website, and I'll just give that to you so you can drop that in. Yeah, so that's everything.
Okay, cool. Well, we're definitely going to be reaching out. We're going to buy some butters, support, and you're going to get a great product, which is something that you don't have to worry about what's in it. It's 3-4 ingredients, and yeah, you're going to be supporting Black owned, which is that's what the big thing is right now, right? Supporting Black owned businesses. So
I'll ride that way.
Yeah. Grab some of her oils, grab my book, and hopefully you all enjoyed this episode. A little bit different, but such an amazing perspective. And I feel like we really learned and explored a lot. Was there anything else that you wanted to kind of say or talk about before we end?
Keep doing what you're doing. If you're on the channel, in the groups, then you made a great decision already. Just keep going. You have a lot of support. I'll be in and out. You have us, and you have your intuition. Just follow your intuition. You want to be the best you that you can be, and it's already in there. So this is just another tool to get you there. That's it.
All right. Well, that's it. If you guys like this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, the application of knowledge is power, and we will see you all next time.